Are you curious about what became of the two children of David Bowie, the man who reinvented himself more times than any artist in modern history? He was Ziggy Stardust, the thin white duke, the restless visionary who turned music, fashion, and identity into a cosmic art form. But behind the alien personas and the revolutionary albums was a father whose private world was far quieter, far more human, and far more protective than the public ever knew. David Bowie was a shapeshifter in public. But in private, he built a life defined by privacy love and devotion to the two children who inherited the legacy of a man the world could never fully comprehend. His eldest child, Duncan Jones, was born during Bowie's tumultuous years when addiction, fame, and reinvention collided. His daughter, Alexandria Lexi Jones, arrived decades later during Bowie's most peaceful, grounded era, shaped by his marriage to Iman and his retreat from celebrity chaos. Together, these two children represent the extremes of Bowie's life. A son raised in the turbulence of rock stardom and reinvention, and a daughter raised in stability, art, and quiet love. Their stories are not mere footnotes to Bowie's myth. They are reflections of the man beneath the costumes, the father behind the music, the David Jones who existed before and after the world discovered David Bowie. Let's begin with the first child born during Bowie's wildest decade and uncover how the son of an icon grew into a storyteller of his own. Number 2. Duncan Zowie. Haywood Jones was born in 1971 during one of the most chaotic, electrifying, and transformative chapters of David Bowie's life. At the time, Bowie was not just becoming famous, he was becoming otherworldly. Ziggy Stardust had descended. Stardom was accelerating. The world was trying to define Bowie, while Bowie was attempting to lose himself entirely in his own creation. In the middle of that cosmic storm, Duncan arrived, a child born into a world where nothing was ordinary and everything was changing. His mother, Angela Barnett, Bowie's first wife, was as fiery and unconventional as David himself. Their marriage was a collision of art, ambition, and volatility. For Duncan, this meant a childhood marked by transience, constant travel, constant reinvention, and a father who was both deeply loving and often unreachable, swallowed by music addiction and the shape-shifting demands of fame. Bowie adored his son, even when the chaos of life made parenting difficult. He dedicated songs to him, photographed him constantly, and carried him across continents while living between London, Los Angeles, Berlin, and the flickering limelight of the 1970s. Yet Duncan's early life was undeniably shaped by instability. He saw the extremes of rock stardom, the glamour, the strangeness, the spiraling excess, and carried the quiet understanding that his father's brilliance came with shadows. Everything changed after Bowie's divorce from Angela in 1980. Gaining full custody of Duncan, Bowie made a conscious decision to ground his life. He stepped away from destructive habits. He sought normalcy. He wanted to be a father, not just a legend. Duncan was sent to boarding schools, surrounded by structure and stability, far from the madness that once defined Bowie's orbit. It was here that Duncan began to flourish academically, discovering a passion not for music, but for storytelling. As an adult, Duncan forged a career entirely separate from his father's. He became an acclaimed film director and writer, known for intelligent, emotionally layered works such as Moon Source Code and Mute. By the time Lexi entered the world, David Bowie was no longer the neon alien of the 1970s, nor the avant-garde provocateur of the 1980s. He'd stepped out of the glare of fame, married the supermodel Iman, and created something he had never truly known before: a stable, loving home. Lexi grew up in a world far different from the one her half-brother Duncan knew. Bowie, having learned from past mistakes and battles with addiction, protected her fiercely from the public eye. He refused paparazzi access, avoided Hollywood parenting circles, and deliberately kept her childhood normal. In Manhattan, and later in the family's Catskills home, Lexi grew up surrounded not by fame, but by art, warmth, and a sense of serenity her father had spent decades searching for. Iman, a global fashion icon with quiet strength, was the steady center of Lexi's world. Together, she and Bowie gave their daughter an upbringing defined by love, privacy, and cultural richness. In the years since Lexi has slowly emerged into adulthood, an artist, painter, and model with a style unmistakably influenced by her father's visual imagination. On social media, she shares glimpses of her artwork, surreal, colorful, introspective pieces that echo Bowie's fascination with identity and transformation. But she remains fiercely private. Unlike many celebrity children, Lexi refuses to capitalize on her father's name. She has turned down modeling deals, avoided interviews, and lives largely outside the spotlight Bowie spent his life trying to escape. Today, Alexandria Zahra Jones represents the most intimate part of David Bowie's legacy, the chapter of his life defined by love, peace, healing, and the quiet joy of fatherhood. Lexi is the daughter he raised in the world he always wanted one, where David Jones, the man, finally came before David Bowie, the icon. She became the muse of his later years, the soft orbit around a man who had spent a lifetime searching for peace. Her life, sheltered and intentional, represents Bowie's redemption as a father, the gentle chapter after the storm. Together, Duncan and Lexi revealed two truths about David Bowie: that genius can fracture a life and that love can heal it. Duncan carries the legacy of Bowie, the visionary, restless, intellectual, searching. Lexi carries the legacy of Bowie, the human, warm, protective, full of quiet wonder. Their stories prove that behind the alien personas, the avant-garde costumes, and the limitless reinventions, Bowie was simply a man who loved deeply, learned painfully, and evolved endlessly. And through his two children, the music continues not in sound, but in spirit, in art, in imagination, and in the enduring truth that even the greatest of icons longs in the end for home.